Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla, let's go over the market, let's figure out what is happening and what we can expect moving forward and all that good stuff as per usual. So if you enjoy the video, don't forget to hit that like button as it does help a lot. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, my membership section is live. If you're interested, the link is down below in the description of this video at the top, right? You can just get access to my membership section for just $3 a month. You get access to all my intraday thoughts, posts, updates, technical analysis, options, flow on Tesla. Every day the market is trading on Tesla and sometimes other stocks, but mainly Tesla, of course. Again, for just $3 a month, you get access to all these thoughts and posts and updates and things like that and technical analysis. So again, link below if you're interested. But Tesla closing the day up about 0.5%, closing at almost $175 per share, which compared to the market is a nice little bit of an outperformance. Not a crazy outperformance, but a nice outperformance nonetheless. But the more important thing is to take a look at the two candle structures on the daily chart with Tesla relative to the market. You can see Tesla not really forming a hammer candle. It's pretty close. The wick at the top is too long in my opinion, but a still pretty solid looking candle, right? And showing some nice solid buying pressure. Obviously on not the best looking volume, you know, obviously the volume is kind of so-so, which is why we're pretty much just going sideways. I think the next actual move we get up to the upside or to the downside, I'm hoping to the upside though, should be an increase in volume. So, you know, nonetheless, it's still pretty good candle compared to, for instance, SPY, right? Pretty low volume as well, but SPY, QQQ, you can see pretty bearish looking candle. I'm not gonna lie, this is pretty much closing out near the lows of the day, right? Pretty much an inverted hammer candle, more or less. So not the best looking candle here on the market, which is pretty much the biggest risk to Tesla potentially moving forward, which we'll discuss in this video. But all in all, Tesla definitely overall having a nice outperformance day, in my opinion, just looking at the candle specifically relative to the market. Now, what do we do today? Today, we actually, you know, obviously started the day off a little bit red. But we came down to my level that I talked about yesterday, 172, right? This 172 level is important because, well, what did that do? It gap filled this gap from earlier, I think, what was this, Monday's gap? Yeah, the gap from Monday leading into Tuesday, right? We gap filled it, bounced off of it pretty much to perfection. Like, you really couldn't have asked for a better looking bounce, at least, you know, intraday, especially relative to the market. And yeah, we filled that gap and we're looking pretty solid. The only concerning thing, again, is, you know, it's a little bit on low volume. So that's, you know, could be a little bit more better volume, I guess you can say, and of course the market itself. But all in all, you know, we're still kind of doing roughly what I've been talking about for quite some time, right? We're obviously trading within this kind of mid to low 170s range. We talked about that for quite some time, how, you know, I think we'll correct back down here, which we did. We broke out of this bull flag, we came back, retested this bull flag arguably twice now, yesterday and today. We filled the gap. We're holding above the volume profile. We're holding above this median white line, which is essentially that 20-day moving average, right? Where I'm pretty sure holding above that 21 EMA as well, right? So that's 3 days in a row now we held above it, which today was a fake breakdown below the 21 EMA. So things are not looking too shabby. I'll be completely honest for Tesla, right? Overall, if you were to ask me, like, how does Tesla's chart look? How does that, only that, just Tesla, how does the chart look? How does the technical analysis, you know, fare, if you will? I think it looks pretty solid. I really do. I actually do believe it looks pretty damn solid. And I really think that Tesla is looking to set up a potential looking move to the upside. Now, the one caveat, and there's a couple of caveats, right, is, well, it's a matter of perspective. So perspective number one is the bullish perspective, right? Are we just sitting in a pretty much bull flag breakout retest? Now we move up even higher. That's perspective number one. Perspective number two, which we can take a look at on the 4-hour chart, is, well, what if this is just a small little bear flag, right? What if we're actually sitting in this little tiny bear flag that I actually literally just saw as I was talking just now? I just noticed that, But, you know, what if we're sitting in, you know, something like this, like a little bit of a potential, you know, bear flag like this, right? I mean, what if this is the situation we're sitting in? You know, it's a matter of perspective, right? Like, which one is it? That's why you always want to be careful with technical analysis sometimes when looking at these things, right? When drawing trend lines, things like that, it could be biased. You can easily turn it into a bullish or bearish perspective based on just how you want to formulate everything, really. So keep that in mind. But overall, if I had to pick, I like this look a little bit more. I just think it's just a solid look. We made higher highs, breaking this previous high over here in the 182s as we went up here. And overall, the structure is good. So that's why I think if we do draw down, if we do move lower with the market, because the market does look like it wants to correct, at least as of right now. Obviously things can change, but as of right now, it does look like it may want to correct moving forward, maybe into next week, for instance, right? That is a possibility, which I'll talk about where I think they can go if it were to correct roughly. But if that were to be the case, in my opinion, Tesla will do one of either two things, right? Number one, it'll just follow the market. It'll just simply follow the market. It'll also get a further correction, unfortunately, even lower, and it'll essentially play out this little mini bear flag on the 4-hour that we just showed, right? And if that were to play out, I think that will take us to somewhere around the low 160s. right? And we talked about that level, how that is still a potential level to come down to, but it's still overall, in my opinion, as long as we hold 163 to 160, we're still in a pretty decent spot. Could be potentially setting up an inverted head and shoulders here, which, you know, is a little bit weird, mainly because the neckline is a little bit strange ever since this move up, right? So that, because normally the inverted head and shoulders would be something like this, right? You have the left shoulder here, head here, and then potentially set up the right shoulder here at, you know, 160, let's say. But the issue is this little move up here kind of removes, the neckline becomes very strange. I mean, you can still argue that the neckline is still pretty much this 185 level, and this was just like maybe a false breakout or like an anomaly or something like that, right? And the actual neckline is still pretty much around this 185. That is still an argument you can make, I guess. But, you know, this just makes the neckline a little bit wonky in my opinion. So we'll see how that plays out. But nonetheless, you know, even if we come down to 160s, I still think the Tesla chart overall looks bullish, and it might give you one more opportunity to get in, as long as, of course, we hold that 160s level. The stochastic on the, or the MACD on the daily is still flip bullish, but it's obviously going pretty much sideways as the stock has been as well. Stochastic, like I said before, has reset, but it's looking to potentially flip bullish. RSI is pretty much going sideways. And the weekly chart, which of course, you know, the weekly candle does close tomorrow. We'll see how it closes relative to the actual candle itself. And more importantly, I want to see how it closes relative to the MACD. Do we get this confirmed bullish crossover? And as long as Tesla doesn't crash tomorrow, I think we will get this bullish crossover. As long as we hold pretty much above 170, I think we should get that bullish crossover on the weekly, which is a good sign as well. So we'll see how that fares and how that overall plays out. The RSI on the weekly still looks pretty solid. Stochastic still looking like it's, you know, got some serious, not serious, but decent strength, you can say, moving upwards even further. So again, in my opinion, honestly, the biggest risk to Tesla is the market. For instance, if we bring out my favorite indicator, the band's regression, right? You know how we always talk about the band's regression, whether it's on the daily chart, sometimes the 4-hour chart, sometimes the 1-hour chart, right? We always talk about those oversold, overbought conditions, right? As I'm sure people that follow this channel are, you know, pretty familiar with nowadays, right? Well, take a look at how it looks like on the daily charts on the SPY and on QQQ. It's in extreme overbought conditions. It really is. The market is definitely overextended here for the short term. And, you know, a move to the downside and us getting a small mini correction here wouldn't be completely out of the question. The market overall still looks bullish. We just made a fresh higher high, right? The market looks bullish. I don't want to, you know, let's not confuse ourselves here. The market is still overall, structure-wise, very bullish. But with that being said, it is short-term very, 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 very overbought, right? Very overbought. It can stay overbought. Again, keep in mind, there's two ways to correct. There's an actual correction to the downside, which if that were to play out for the market, for instance, SPY and QQQ would correct back down to around the median over here, which if it happens over the next like week or so, and this kind of moves up to meet us, probably be somewhere around like 520 to 515 on SPY, and somewhere around, I would argue like 440 to like high 430s on QQQ, right? Which would be a correction of about 2.5% to 3% from here, right? About 3%, we'll say, for both of them, give or take, right? That would be a nice, solid, respectable 3% correction, which I think is not completely impossible. And if that were to happen, that would be, you know, assuming Tesla just follows the market at its usual delta, will probably be like a 6-7% correction on Tesla, which will actually bring us almost perfectly down to this 160s level, which is about 8% lower from us right now. So just keep in mind that is a possibility. And in my opinion, the biggest risk for Tesla is that market correction that I talked about, for about that 3-ish% correction, which I think is, you know, a possibility moving forward. So, but again, Tesla sometimes just really just ignores the market, and it just really does its own thing, as it's pretty much been doing for quite some time now, right? It sometimes follows the market, you know, a little bit here and there, but largely the overall structure for Tesla and the way it moves, especially for the past like year almost, or maybe half a year or something like that, right? Where the market has been pumping to all-time highs and Tesla has been pumping pretty much quite the opposite direction. Well, that's pretty much, you know, a good example of Tesla just doing the opposite of the market, or at least its own thing, not necessarily the opposite, but its own thing. So when people always talk about, well, the market corrects, Tesla has to fall down too, not necessarily, right? It could, nobody knows for sure. But I mean, again, like I said, Tesla has been doing pretty much, you know, its own thing for quite some time now, like several months. Who's to say that cannot continue to the opposite side? So we'll see how that plays out. But ultimately, the way I look at it is, well, Tesla's structure overall on the market and the structure on the chart, including the actual market itself, all look really good. It's just a potential mini correction is around the corner for the market. Will that affect Tesla or not, right? If we lose pretty much 170 to 168, consider this 163 to 160 level pretty much in reach, you know, probably in a few days from when and if that situation actually occurs, that breakdown below 170 to 168, right? Keep that in mind. That's probably the most important level. But losing this, like, you know, 170 to 171-ish level is also not really ideal, because we lose that volume profile, which wouldn't be the best thing to see. Like, I wouldn't want to see that again, right? We already kind of played with fire over here just a few days ago, right? And this red candle over here on last Friday, right, where we closed below that volume profile, and then even the day after, we kind of danced around it, and then we gapped up above it. So I want to continue holding it the way we are. This looks pretty solid. I want to see this continued strength from Tesla to hold well while the market is potentially, you know, maybe selling off or not doing too well. I want to see that continue with Tesla. So that's kind of the main thing I'm looking at right now. If we break to the downside, you know the plays, right? Or the levels. If we break to the upside, well, you pretty much want to see at the very least a break back above 180. If you break above 180, probably 185, 184, 185 is next. 180, if that gets broken, at the very least, we'll come back up, in my opinion. Honestly, I think high 190s to 205, I still think is in play, though I think that'll take a bit longer. But we'll see. You never know with Tesla. Sometimes it does these sporadic moves and really just can't expect it sometimes. But again, overall, I think Tesla looks pretty solid in my opinion. Now, the one thing that was a little bit concerning, even though options flow was quite mute today on Tesla, with that being said, though, there was a 4 million put that came in on Tesla, 175 strike, June 28th, coming in at the ask. So not above the ask, but still at the ask, and still obviously quite some serious premium. Now, this came in at 11:20 a.m., right? What happened at 11:20 a.m. on Tesla? Well, that's pretty much the top of the day, right? If you look back all the way over here, 11:20 a.m. was right this top, right? So it pretty much topped, and it did have this, decent sell-off. That was about a % sell-off pretty quickly too, like in what, 20 minutes or so, right? Nice solid 1% sell-off, and that bear entered at pretty much the top of the day there. So they could have been exited the position by now. Keep that in mind, because if you go to bearish flow here, Tesla's sitting at, okay, now it's at 50 million, never mind. When I was looking at it earlier, it was completely different, but sitting at 50 million, so they could still be in this position. So if they are still in this position, they clearly expect Tesla to correct even further, probably along with the market, and they probably expect that low 160s to come into play. So this is a pretty large order, right? 4 million is quite a bit, especially considering, it's only like a month out. That's really not that far out for such a thing, for such an order. So keep that in mind that, maybe they exited, maybe they didn't, who knows for sure. That's why you always take options with a grain of salt, in my opinion, because we don't know the true intentions. Maybe it's a hedge. Who knows? Maybe they already exited. Like, we don't really know for sure, right? But, assuming they're still in the position, they probably expect this move down to continue. And they probably expect the 163 to 160s to come in probably in the next week or two, which, it's not completely impossible. But again, in my opinion, to really solidify that, I'd want to lose pretty much the low of today. I want it to be gone as a bear. If you were to be a bear, you want to see that gone. You want to lose this volume profile, and you really want to lose 168. Then that really comes into play, in my opinion. But other than that, I think Tesla looks actually more bullish than bearish, personally. If you look at this potential bull flag breakout retest, volume profile hold, 21 EMA hold, 3 days in a row now, 20-day moving average hold, also 3 days in a row now. So we'll see. I think it looks more bullish than bearish, but obviously we'll take it level by level. But all that being said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.